let's consider the case of one of Honda's most successful bikes of the last decade or so. It's a twin. It can be had with an automatic gearbox or manual, and it has been a hit since the day it first landed in showrooms across the world. Don, on the other hand, was basically still a teenager back then and only liked bikes that were red and had a V-twin engine, or were orange and had a V-twin engine and at least 150 horsepower at tickover. He's grown up a bit since then, but that isn't going to stop me reminding him that he said the original bike was so boring that anyone who bought one should probably just kill themselves for being as boring as their bike. Hey Don.
Okay, in fairness, it was the first 700 that I rode, and I didn't like it at all. I really didn't. And I mean, my thoughts were sort of shared by quite a few people. Two things happened. I have gotten older. I will concede a little bit that maybe I was a bit younger then. I mean, it was only, 10 years ago, people change. But,
That's about a quarter of your lifetime, though.
Yeah, a little bit of a sort of a quarter of my life has sort of happened a bit. But at the same time, the NC has changed too. I mean, that first 700 was a bore machine. I mean, I understand you want, reliability and all of this, but it was a bore machine. Since then, I mean, there's been 3 upgrades. The first one was up to 750, then an upgrade on the 750, and now a further upgrade. It has gotten better every single time. So I'm going to say that to me, I still don't think I would like the original NC700. I haven't ridden one in ages, but I think a lot of it is down to just Honda improving the bike a lot.
Well, that's what Honda are very good at as a rule. Now, what we're talking about here, of course, is quite possibly the ultimate city tool, the ultimate commuting weapon. But Don, given what's going on in the world, that I don't think was really possible in terms of the launch. Where were you for this one? I don't think you were in the city, were you?
No, and they sort of did this on purpose. They originally said they were going to do a city launch, but they actually said, no, this bike deserves something else. We went out to 88, it's near Hartbeespoort, and we went on an actual country ride. I mean, it was more like a breakfast run than a sort of round the city. In fact, we went through hardly any city at all. And part of what Honda said they wanted to do with this machine is just show that it's not just a commuter. You can use it for other stuff. It's got the sort of adventure riding stance. It's not really off-road, but it's got the stance. And it can go, you can actually go out of town on journeys with the thing. And now with the sort of improved power, improved everything, it is, I would say, yeah, go for it. I mean, you want to go on a long journey on your NC750, by all means. It's fantastic.
Well, let's have a look at, where Honda have been sort of applying their skills. And I suppose the obvious one from me, who hasn't ridden it yet, it looks a lot better. It looks more modern. Yeah. It looks, dare I say it, desirable.
Okay, well, something I'm going to say, and this is, you can see what Honda have kind of done with this. I mean, I think what they did is they heard my road test of the first 700. They thought, we have to do something. This won't stand. We have to do something. And one of the things, like, you look at the objectives of what people want to do with a motorcycle, you kind of see where their intentions are and what they want to do with that motorcycle. And part of the objectives, or everywhere when you read the objectives of the new NC750, the word fun keeps coming up. So not more economical, more all of this, although they are there. The word fun, they kept saying this thing needs to be more fun. And yeah, to a large extent it is. I mean, as you say, it does look a lot better. It's got those sort of angry eye LED lights which look a lot better. It's a lot sharper, sort of more minimalistic. It's not a bike you would be embarrassed to show up, in front of your friends on. It's like, yeah, look at my bike, I'm quite something. Other things they've done just beyond the looks is the actual noise. They've said it straight. They said they wanted to give it a better sound. So they've especially modified the muffler, as they say in the States, or the silencer. They've modified the airbox. So now it has more of like a throaty kind of deep sound to it. It sounds like a cool motorcycle. It looks like a cool motorcycle.
I mean, just in terms of sound of a bike, which is massively important, and Honda certainly aren't the only one, or in even this class of bikes, the manufacturers do engineer sound. And interestingly, a lot of people won't realise, but when you're on the bike and you're riding it, most of your oral pleasure, most of the sound of the bike doesn't come to you from the exhaust. The exhaust is primarily for the people stood by the side of the road. That's what they hear. For you on the bike, you tend to hear what's happening as the air rushes through the airbox on its way into the engine. So they can actually play with its dimensions and its roots to engineer a sound. Don, though, we're still talking a parallel twin, aren't we, at the heart of it?
Yeah.
Has anything happened to the numbers? Have we got any more power
Yes,
out of it?
we do have more numbers. Numbers are good. They have modified the whole motors sort of. Look, the bike is largely the same, but they have kind of modified things, key things. The whole cylinder head's a little bit different. The whole fuel injection's a bit different. It makes 3 horsepower more, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the tally is 58 now, so it is a fair amount. The torque output is 69, but they have said, look, they didn't focus on maximum output, which is what people are doing these days, especially on a motorcycle like this. They said most of the gains were in the mid-range, and when you ride it, you can definitely feel it.
Okay, so that's a lot of where the fun is coming from. The big thing with Honda as well these days, and they're making use of it in a lot of their models. Talk to me about the DCT. We're talking the dual clutch transmission. I've been a big fan of it since it came out, and over the past few years, each time we see it on a new model, each time we see it on a revised model, the DCT itself has always improved a little bit. I think it better suits something like a Goldwing, but generally, I mean, you surprised me earlier, Don, when you were telling me that DCT has been a success across many of Honda's models, and also seems to be gaining a foothold in South Africa.
Yeah. Originally, mostly in the NC models, the manual has outsold the DCT in South Africa. In Europe, it's a different matter. But recently, I mean, the most recent months, the DCT is starting to outsell the manual, which is really interesting. I mean, the price is 10 grand difference. That probably plays into it. But then you go up on the bigger models, the Africa Twin is now sort of universally, South Africa included, the DCT is outselling the manual, which kind of shows you something. I mean, it's sort of, what do people want? Well, obviously it's this. And I will say something, and this is something I didn't notice, is when I look at the reaction from different journalists, the ones who either just ride normal manual motorcycles everywhere or drive a manual car didn't like the DCT. Whereas like me on the other hand, when I'm not riding a motorcycle, my car is an automatic. So to me, it was just sort of, I get on and it's like my automatic car, if you know what I mean. So I'm kind of used to it. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. And there's no clutch and there's no anything. The gear change is really quick and very, very smooth. But if you're in kind of like a sporty environment, if you're in a corner and you want to accelerate hard out of it, you're going to have to wait a split second while the bike changes down 2 gears, things like that. But because I already drive an automatic, I'm used to it. So it's fine. Whereas the other people, it's sort of a new thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's something I noticed.
It still retains its positive and negative button, so you can assume a slight manual override of it. It's a bit like an auto gearbox in that way. I'm a fan of autos in cars as well. These days they're so good. And just as an interesting aside there, in case you're thinking, Donovan, a pensioner, I wonder when he's going to retire because he drives an automatic. Don't think about a Honda Ballade or anything. He drives a V8 Backy. A red one, so I don't know, 400
Ferrari.
horsepower idiot's machine.
And an auto shift.
It was always known for its practicality in terms of little cubby holes here and there and everywhere. Does that still hold true?
It's still got that cubby hole under where the tank would normally be. The tank itself is under the passenger seat. So you've got this big kind of tank up front of you, click a button and the whole tank lifts up and there's a cubby hole. Now previously they advertised that it would take a full face helmet. However, no one in fact was able to get a full face helmet in the thing. Now actually they did. We did actually see a full face helmet go inside that cubby hole and they closed the boot.
Handling wise, it was always more than adequate, Don, but if they've gone for the fun angle, I mean, you encountered a few corners. Did you have fun on them?
We did have some corners, yes. Now, okay, part of it, it's 6 kilograms lighter, so it's 214 kilograms weight, which is sort of decent, you know what I mean? It's also, the seat is 30 millimeters lower, which suits me perfectly. So you do have a lot more confidence on the machine. What I did notice is the suspension it's not sophisticated suspension, but I mean at no stage are you sitting there thinking to yourself, man, I wish I had more preload and more rebound on this and more of that. No one ever thought that. It's very sort of all-round sort of suspension that works both sporty and comfort and everything like that, which is what I think they were going for. And they managed to do that on the more unsophisticated suspension, which is cheaper. So life is good.
Okay, well, before we finish off on what seems like a very interesting and worthy update, we can't but talk about economy. And I believe they gave you the option on the launch ride, Don, to have some kind of mini economy run. Tell me how that went down.
So we stopped at one garage. They filled up the motorcycles, the people from Honda filled the bikes up. We then it was a stretch of freeway, then a stretch of country road before we had to fill up again. Total was 36.4 kilometers. And what I was originally going to do was jump on and then go completely flat out, just for the fun of it, see what happened. But
of course.
But old Bill Hunter, he's been on the show, he beat me to it because he roared out of the garage and redlined it the whole way down the road. I was like, oh, okay, somebody's doing that already. Damn. And I cursed myself for not having an original thought. But anyway, so what I decided to do is I'm just going to set off and try and be kind of normal. So I was riding between 100 and 120 kilometers per hour, trying to act I'm trying to use, sort of average and sort of do something like that. And weirdly, I was the second person to arrive. Bill arrived at the garage miles before everybody else. I was second to arrive. The guy who eventually won it, he finished 10 minutes after me. So he was taking it very seriously. He was like slipstreaming trucks at 60 k's an hour. So yeah, he took it very seriously. And so it was 36 kilometers. I did it in just slightly over a liter, so 1.04 liters. So I'm averaging pretty much 36 kilometers per liter, which is amazing. I'll say, wow. Okay. Bill did use 1.9 liters. but it's a lot more than me. I mean, he used nearly double what I did. It just shows, when you go flat out, how much more fuel you use. But you're still doing 20 kilometers per liter, which really, really is not bad. I mean, super bikes and those sort of things, many adventure bikes wish they could do that riding sort of economically. The guy who won, which is Dries, who arrived 10 minutes after me, he used 0.7 of a liter, 52 kilometers per liter. I mean, he had to sell his soul, and I think he might have died of boredom, and he can't any longer. But still, 52 kilometers per liter, that's incredible.
It's an interesting range, and I think perhaps, Don, yours is in a way the most important figure, because 100 to 120 k's an hour, you're basically replicating what the average person will go out and have fun on a Sunday breakfast morning ride. I mean, you're still shifting along on a back road 120 k's an hour. You're enjoying yourself, and yet you're sipping the fuel at that pace. That really is very, very impressive. Okay, Don, before we leave the subject entirely, I was trying to think back on my head while we were talking there of any direct competitors for the Honda, and that largely depends on, I can't really think of any. Where is it going to be priced? I suppose that helps us define where it sits in the market.
Well, this is sort of interesting because generally as updates arrive, prices go up. But I mean, this has got things we haven't mentioned yet, ride-by-wire throttle, it's got rider modes, slight traction control, it's got a shifter assist clutch, makes the clutch much easier on the manual version. So, there are updates. You expect the price would naturally go up. It hasn't. It's come down 10%. And I don't know how Honda did this. The manual is 126,000 Rand. The DCT automatic is 135,000 Rand. And I mean, you consider that the 300s these days, like as the 400 Ninja, those kind of things, they're all sitting at about 105,000 Rand. So it's 20 grand more than the 300 class. And that sounds about worth it.
Yeah, that sounds very much worth it. I remember we were speaking a couple of weeks ago about the little mini adventure bikes, and I vaguely remember a GS300 was 108,000 Rand, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So I mean, this 20 grand more for up from a 300 to a 750. It's very worth it. That's very, very good money.
Yeah, it is well priced, and at 126,000 Rand, the nearest competitors are also parallel twins in the shape of Yamaha's more powerful and more entertaining MT-07. But with 74 horsepower, it's also a bit more expensive at about 135,000 Rand. Or you could go for the Kawasaki Z650 that comes in about 3,000 Rand cheaper, and it still has 10 horsepower more than the Honda, but 5 Newton meters less torque. Neither of those bikes offer an auto gearbox option though, and there is a very good reason why that is proving to be such a top seller around the world. It works. It's incredibly easy to use. It makes congested traffic work a doddle, and because it's a Honda, it's the sort of technology that will only ever eventually break long after you've shuffled off to meet your maker. And on that cheery note, time for some ads.